Happy Friday, and welcome here to a holiday weekend edition of the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, getting ready for a big Easter weekend. No spring practice. You'll have some Husker baseball, but just a good time to go out and about. We don't have a big Easter weekend plan. We'll go to church, and then we're gonna hit a brunch. But
where are you going to brunch?
We're gonna. I don't want to make myself sound super. We're going to Firethorn for their brunch.
Oh, well,
I don't want to sound like super fancy here, but
that sounds nice. That'll be fun. So you're going to be in town?
Yeah, we're going just to church.
You're staying in Lincoln.
Yeah, and then next weekend we have the big First Communion. So like there's a lot of stuff going on with family and kids with us the next 2 weekends. But
there's football stuff though. Michigan has theirs.
They're doing it on Easter.
Oh, Saturday,
Easter weekend. They are.
They're not doing it on Sunday. Michigan is, and it's televised. It's on BTN. As far as I know.
Well, perfect segue. Before we get to that, HuskerOnline Headlines is brought to you by our title sponsor, StayHome.Care. They're there for you, your loved ones, to help you with all the simple things. Maybe you can't be there to help. Well, they can be there for you. Cooking, cleaning, doctor's appointments, grocery shopping. You name it. That's StayHome.Care. Call them at 402-205-2233 to learn more about what they can do for you, your family, your loved ones. It's never too early to call StayHome.Care. But let's get into it because you mentioned Michigan's going to have a spring game this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're going to get at least kind of some form of a Nebraska spring game now on April 26th. And that was really the breaking news that came out of the press briefing with Matt Rule, that even NU officials like Haven Fields and Keith Mann that were in the room, they didn't know this was coming. But Matt Rule said on Thursday that Nebraska will have a form of a true football game now on April 26th. The caveat, though, it's going to feature the lower players on the roster, third teamers, maybe some lower second teamers, and primarily for players that are maybe not going to make that 105. And the reality is there's probably about 20 players on this roster that are going to have to move on from Nebraska football. And this is an opportunity for these players to have one more moment as a Husker in Memorial Stadium and get some game film.
And you feel that will be beneficial to those kids?
I do, and I thought about this more. This is kind of a sad day for me on Saturday next week, knowing it really is kind of the end of the walk-on era. And you're going to see these kids on the field.
Right.
And this is something that's been going on in Nebraska since Bob Devaney, as far as the walk-on program. He brought it with him from Wyoming because they had a lack of in-state talent and lack of recruits in the area. So they took a lot of walk-ons. And he transferred that idea to Nebraska and obviously helped change the program. And, you think about what the walk-on program has meant. It's not necessarily been a separator, but it has in a lot of respects. But it's developed and built a lot of great men in this state. Players that have never played a down of football have gone on to be doctors, lawyers, business owners. And, they came in as walk-ons and they developed the work ethic and toughness through, being a walk-on at Nebraska. And they took those skills to life and they've made this state better for that. So when I think about what Saturday next week is, that will be the last time we see players like that.
Oh, that's sad.
In that capacity.
Yeah. I mean, there's just no way that it'll ever come back. Probably not, right?
Probably not. If we're dead set on this roster number.
105. So you won't have these. I mean, so you won't have a story like Jacob Bauer.
So what will happen now? I mean, you're going to see Nebraska, like they're just not like traditional walk-on takes anymore in recruiting. They didn't take any this year. And
I know.
And so it's kind of become extinct.
Yeah.
But
this, I get what you're saying. This is kind of the end point to a longer discussion is what you're getting at, right?
One that's been big in building Nebraska football.
Big. We don't have to go through all of the names, but yeah, some of the walk-ons were pure difference makers. I mean, there were guys that didn't play or played very limited roles that were still sort of the backbone of the program. But then there were the guys that, oh God, He was a walk-on. Makovica, Tomic. I mean, there were guys that were like really good.
Well, I even think of just like the Brandon Rigoni story.
Oh, 100.
Like a
100.
guy that is probably the smallest player to play on a football field at Nebraska in the last 30 years.
But the impact on special teams
and
was
he was
enormous.
one of the most impactful special teams players.
Yeah, he'd make plays that would
And
galvanize the entire team.
he was voted a captain on a team that won the North, and the other two captains were Adam Carricker and Zach Taylor.
There you go.
That story's gone. I mean, that type of story, when you think about just the history, and there's Riggs, and I'll never forget when I saw him at Nebraska, and I'm like, God, how's this little guy going to be able to play? And I had friends from Lincoln Southeast like, oh, you don't know, man, this guy works so hard. And you hear that a lot. Then you saw it. Like, yeah, that story would never have happened. And so, yeah, it is sad when you think about what it has how it has impacted Nebraska.
It is. I don't want to think about it too much. There will still be stories of Nebraska kids, though, that work hard, earn a scholarship, and make a huge impact. That'll never go away, right?
No,
it won't.
And I think Matt Rule is going to do his best to keep probably 10 players on a 105 that would fit the walk-on description.
Right. He hasn't said that in those words.
Well,
right?
the bottom, he's referred to it as your bottom 10.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily like ranking players 96 to 105. It's 10 guys that kind of are culture type players that can help your program still.
I'm kind of holding on to those words. That's what I'm doing in this discussion. But yeah, on
let's get back to because
on Thursday he dropped that on us that they were going to have some scrimmage action, and I think it's important. I think that day, April 26th, in what they're calling the Husker games, needed some juice. I think leave it to me to complain about everything, which I tend to do. I think they could have went a step further and said, we're going to play the first units, a couple series. And I think that would have given it a little more juice. This is good though. And I love the reasoning he laid out, and it was a nice surprise.
Well, and I think April 12th showed everybody like what we could be in store for. And that was the spring game weekend last weekend, where it was a disaster, where the crowds are small
at Oklahoma,
at Alabama. I mean, even Ohio, everybody's crowds are down
at
everywhere.
Ohio State.
And, it's just kind of the reality of where we're at. And I think we knew that, but like somebody on the Red Sea Scrolls said, yeah, I think they probably figured out pretty quickly. If you just do kind of a 7-on-7 deal and a garage sale, that's probably only 3,000 or 4,000 people that are going to pay for that.
That's harsh reality. As you've mentioned, that's harsh reality to a place that once had you could say there was a time when Nebraska had the premier spring game day, right?
Put it this way. When Scott Frost got hired, they sold out 90,000 spring game tickets in hours.
Okay. See, now it's gone from that. And like when Bill Callahan took over, remember Bill Callahan, how many people were at that one? 80,000?
Yeah. I mean, well, it got bigger every year.
Yeah. So Bill Callahan's first year.
That's where it started 20 years ago with Bill Callahan, Tim Cassidy, and Steve Peterson. They came up with the idea to make the spring game a marketing Saturday for Nebraska.
Right.
And that very first spring game, I don't know if you remember this, but it was the 2004 spring game. Every single living current NFL player that was in the NFL, Nebraska paid for them all to come back.
Okay.
They put them all up.
Yeah.
And then they just did this, introduction of every single Husker in the NFL on the field as the recruits were there. But you think about 2004, you were only 3 years removed from playing in the national championship Rose Bowl, and you weren't that far away from the 97 season.
It was a different time.
So there was like 40 Huskers that got introduced that were in the NFL.
It's hard to hear this because it's gone from that to what we're going to see on April 26th. I mean, there's a reality there that's uncomfortable. And some of it's not I don't really blame anybody. I go back to what you're just saying. If you looked at Oklahoma, they had 14,000 people at their Crimson
And that was generous.
Combine. Alabama had 10, 12,000 people. Alabama.
Estimated, not an actual count.
Right. Ohio State, for some reason, gets half of what it got last year, which was 80,000 last year. But coming off a national title, they get 40,000 people. That was a bad spring game crowd for Nebraska at one time, 40,000. That would be like, where is everybody? Some of this is happened because of people are disillusioned with college sports. I mean, frankly. So some of it's that. So Nebraska's battling a force that has nothing to do with. But yeah, I think you're probably right. Now, I don't know that I'm not thoroughly convinced that Rule made this move because he was worried about ticket sales.
I think he's worried about these kids and wants to give them a chance to play.
You'll hear that theory though, right?
But I would like, I think now Nebraska needs to push hard here to get more people in the stadium.
Well, how do you do it, Sean?
I think
go ahead.
We need to see more of I know they initially put one out, but like a true, like, what is the day? I don't know what the day, I know they put one out a long time. I would like to know what the day is going to be.
Yeah.
Like
not many people know.
Like what's going on and how it's going to go. Cause I'd like to help promote it for them and I'd put stuff out, but you want to kind of know what it's going to be and how it's going to be laid out and what's going on. Cause it is confusing. It used to be a lot simpler. It's like, yeah, if we're going to play a 2-hour football game, 1s-on-1s, 2s-on-2s, 3s-on-3s.
Well, they'll roll out a lot this week.
Yeah, they have to. I mean, I'd imagine meetings on Friday as we speak are going on, and there'll be a hard push probably by end of day today or obviously Monday morning. But weather looks like it should be good. I still think that it's going to be hard to draw a number to this thing.
Really hard. And I don't even think right now if they announced what do you think of the idea of playing the first teamers a couple series? I want to see Dylan a couple series, throwing to Dane Key a couple.
I just think the chance of any kind of injury, like last year, you lost Bly Hill for the year, you lost Demetrius Bell for the year. I just think the chance of that, it just not, especially when you're paying a lot of money to all those players.
My counter to that, Sean, is we heard John Butler talk about it this week. Matt Rule has physical practices. They scrimmage. They're going to scrimmage again. They have scrimmages. I mean, I don't want to sit here and act like they don't scrimmage.
Now, won't they scrimmage though on Tuesday or Thursday before the spring game?
Yeah.
So then that would be 2 scrimmages.
Right. Good point. That's a good point.
So maybe Matt's looking at like, hey, Tuesday or Thursday, my guess is Thursday, we're going to kind of let the top 57 have their spring game.
Yeah. And I want to be clear. Matt Rule runs that program, and I respect the way he runs it. I do. I also think I want to make this very clear, Sean. I think more than ever, and I want to say the leaders of college football, who we don't even know who they are, but whoever it is, and now I would also say Troy Dannon's in this conversation. You have to think of the fans more than ever now. More than ever, you better think of them because there's a lot of fans that are disillusioned right now with the way college sports is going. You better think of them. You better include them. You better do things with them in mind.
I think what scares everybody though is this $20.5 million. Like how, they're paying their own money to these players now moving forward. And if something were to happen to them where they get tampered with and transfer or get hurt, you're on the hook.
You're on the hook, Sean, but you can't
operate like that.
No, I get the tampering part, but you can't pull back on the way you approach football because you're worried about injury because of money. I don't think you can. That's not the way to play football, first of all. When you pull back, you're more apt to get hurt. I mean, you got to let it roll, Sean. It's easy for me to say, but I think Matt Rule would say the same thing.
Now, I wonder what quarterback, do you see Davila? Do you see
let's talk
Latif?
Football.
I mean, do you get these guys in the game? Like, does Gramstad play? I mean, who are the quarterbacks that get a play in this game? Like, who are the running backs? Like, it's just, I think we all have a lot of questions. Like, who will actually play in this thing?
Well, it'd be nice to see TJ Latif. It'd really be nice to see Davila.
I like to see Gramstad a little bit more.
Right. Now, Just think of Marcos Davila. He was at Purdue a year and didn't play. We don't know what he has to offer. If you saw him for 5 series on Saturday, that'd be a little meat on the bone. Oh, there
and it won't be on TV.
Right.
And I'm guessing that also probably will mean like broadcasts, like local broadcasters won't be able to high shoot and tape it. Like there'll be probably a rule about what you can tape if they're not going to put it on TV, especially.
This is going to be another jolt to some people. I talked to a couple, I don't need to name them, a couple sports writers, regular guys who cover the team yesterday, who weren't even planning on going on April 26th.
Which that surprises me.
They weren't planning on attending because there's what are you covering? Now it's different now in the wake of Matt's and Coach Rule's announcement that they're going to have some scrimmage action. I think those guys reassess. But before that announcement, they weren't even going to cover the day because it wasn't. And I kind of understand where they're coming from. What are you covering?
Yeah, it was kind of turning into more of like a glorified fan day.
Yeah. So what do you cover? Yeah. Are you covering what? Will Compton? I don't know what you do. And they weren't going to do it. That got my attention. Like, wow, we've devolved to where these sort of prominent
the greatest spring game in the country.
Yeah, we've devolved to a point where these guys are pretty prominent and they're not even going to bother to attend it.
Which I don't know if I agree with that, but
I kind of understand where they're coming from. What are you covering?
Yeah, my job though is to be there for the people and the
for
fans.
The website, yeah.
And if they can't be there, our job's to be at anything they can't be at. So like I think my stance has proven to build a pretty good business.
It is. There's things we don't cover though, that are Husker related.
Well, we're a football based business.
Yeah.
And we cover other sports.
It's interesting. Yeah. It's just I think these conversations are really important because this is where it's kind of gone. It's where it's sort of going. I wonder next year if they just say, no, we're doing a spring game.
Especially if the portal window gets adjusted.
Right. I wonder if if a lot of, and just take Nebraska or include everybody else in the conversation, are these schools around the country going to look at what's happened and say, we better take care of the fans?
Or spring football could change though, too. They might do a different setup of it. You just don't know.
Not even have a traditional spring of football, right?
Yeah, there's so much we don't know. But all right, we kind of went 2 headlines on headline 1 there. We had
kind of fun
20-minute discussion on April 26th. But
hey, Sean, it's our job to put this stuff in perspective.
No, I know. I 100% agree. And we're brought to you by our title sponsor, StayHome.Care. They're there for you, your loved ones. Give them a call to learn more about what they can do at 402-205-2233. We're also brought to you by Mando. And look, it's Easter weekend. I know what Steve Sipple, he's got the Mando ready to go. If you see Sipple in church, you're going to smell him a mile away.
You probably won't see me in
and that's
church.
A good thing.
But I don't know what Mando is. One of the better products I've ever encountered, period. Ketchup is really good. Like, you need ketchup and you need Mando and you need Mando. I think the hidden part of Mando that's good is you can almost use it as, if I know people are coming to the house, I just spray it around the house a little bit because it smells good. It just makes everything smell. Spray it on the blankets, spray it in your shoes. It says that too. This is good for your shoes. There's a lot of things you can do with it.
Yeah, it's dermatologist recommended. And if you've never tried it, we got a great way to try it. The Mando starter pack. And you're going to get 4 items, a stick of deodorant, a spray of deodorant, a body wash, and then some wipes. And it's already heavily discounted with the promo code Husker at shopmando.com. We're going to take $5 additional off the discounted price plus free shipping. That's 40% off price if you were just to add up all these things together. That's the Mando starter pack. And you're going to be able to get that for an additional $5 off the discounted price by simply using the promo code Husker. Thanks to Mando for sponsoring us here on Husker Online's Headlines.
Sean, what would happen if you went to the refrigerator and there was no ketchup? That's trouble, right? ketchup's a necessity. That's one thing I've always felt. Like if you don't have ketchup,
or the worst thing about ketchup is if like you have to like squeeze really hard to get it out, and you're shaking it,
right,
and then you get it to come out. It's like just it's like a disaster. It's like everywhere. You're like, God, I just wanted a little bit of ketchup, not my entire hamburger nuked.
This doesn't have to be an ordeal, but sometimes it is an ordeal. But it's also an ordeal when you have hamburgers and you open the fridge. Oh, we don't have ketchup. Then you got to go to the store.
And Mando's the same way.
Oh, Mando. I'll never not have Mando.
All right.
Okay.
Let's get into headline 2. Rugby-style, here we come.
How about
and
that?
Another bombshell. Jack McAllister went in the transfer portal, or announced he's going in the portal Wednesday. He is practicing still, and Matt Rule, very, very complimentary of the situation with Jack. Came from Washington with Ed Foley before Mike Eckler was hired. Eckler comes in. He's going to install a rugby-style punt scheme, which is very popular in college football, which is why you don't see near as many punt returns because of the way gunners can get down the field. In the NFL, as Matt Rule explained, only 2 players can release down the field at the snap.
Right.
In college football, everybody can, which there's an advantage then by doing a rugby-style punt, which makes it harder to get a clean return when you have 8 or 9 guys running at you.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is new at Nebraska.
Well, they tried it with Daniel Cherney
a little
5 times.
Yeah.
And it didn't work, as we know.
Right.
I mean, he was hurt. It just didn't. That was the Jonathan Rutledge era when he came in with Rutledge, and they didn't even know Daniel Cherney. I mean, he could punt and punted a mile, but he didn't know anything about football. It just didn't work very well. I'm expecting whatever they do here, and they are going to bring in somebody from Australia, I believe. We don't know the name
this
summer, and I would imagine it's going to be somebody that they have a pretty good scouting report on.
Right. Come on. There's, like Matt Rule said on Thursday, there's a plan A and a plan B. They're bringing somebody in.
Yeah.
And that, I think there's a summer session of classes that begins June 2nd. Is that what you're talking about? You'll have a guy at that point.
Or July. I mean, I think that's a position where sure you'd want him on June 2nd. But if he couldn't come till July or even, I mean, that's a position where as long as he can punt, you're fine.
This is a pretty big change. I mean, this is a big change for Saturdays. We're going to see Nebraska as a rugby punting team. This is sort of, it kind of puts a stamp on the Mike Eckler era,
Well, at Tennessee, Jackson Ross, the punter for Eckler there, he could punt both left and right foot with his right foot. And then he also could do a traditional punt.
Right.
So he could do all 3.
That's amazing.
Which that's what the good ones can do. They're able to roll out and do it, but also a traditional style punt.
You know what that's called? That's called having a lot of clubs in your bag. To have all those clubs in your bag. Now, we don't know if that's going to be the case here. That'd be great if it is.
Well, if you grew up playing Aussie rules football, that's much more intense than rugby. I mean, those guys are athletes that play that. You have to be an athlete to play Aussie rules football. It's
kind of
It's way more physical than traditional rugby.
This is kind of exciting, I think. This is a big change on Saturdays. We're gonna see rugby-style punting at Nebraska.
And credit Matt Rule for supporting Mike Eckler and what he wants to do here too. I mean, he made this move to bring in Eckler, and it probably wasn't pretty having to do what they're doing with McAllister.
No, Matt. No, yeah, we should cover that part. Matt Rule was passionate about laying out how well McAllister handled this. Think about this. Is it, by the way, Sean, this is an example of where the portal is good, where the portal makes sense, because McAllister had to leave Washington, right? Because they became a rugby style program, and he didn't fit there. He didn't fit. So he went into the portal to go to a place where he would fit. Well, then he doesn't have any control over it. Nebraska changes coordinators in December, January. I guess Mike Eckler was named in January. Okay, now there's a new coordinator here, and he's going to rugby style. So the portal allows McAllister to jump in and find a place where the scheme fits him. So thank God for the portal in that case, because it gives him a shot.
Well, and I think a lot of people if they could find the right guy, would go to Rugby-style. It's hard to find the player. And, there's this company in Australia called Pro Kick Australia, and they kind of have the market. But then in the States, there's the Cole's kicking camp, and Jamie Cole kind of trains, and his group works with the American guys. So it is kind of a rivalry, between Jamie Cole and their people and the Aussie people, because they're competing for spots.
Yeah.
And the Aussie guys are popular. I mean, they're doing a great, they've kind of taken over. Like Jamie told me this in our book interview, that, they really felt Sam Foltz was going to be the face of American punters when he was coming out. Like he was the guy for the future of the punters and the
conventional, right?
Yeah. Of conventional punters. And just, that's how talented he was. When they looked at what he was going to, he was going to get drafted.
Sam was crazy talented.
Sam was good enough where he could probably rugby punt too.
He was a real good athlete.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a really good athlete.
I mean, he was the best overall athlete in a high school of almost 3,000 students.
Yeah. Yeah. I just always remember him when, God, Rule would probably like to kill me when I say this stuff. When we were going to practice a lot, I'd always watch him warm up. And remember when they had those night practices? Remember sometimes they go at night
in the heat.
Yeah. And he would be punting, and he'd punt it so high they would go up in the sky and be like, well, I can't even see it. Like, because it'd go over the lights or it'd go so high.
Yeah. He'd make tackles though too.
Yeah. He was a great athlete
and a great holder.
Yeah. So it was a really, I mean, I will say this about Thursday. The press conference was loaded. Matt laying out that McAllister situation it's big. It's a big story here that they're going to Rugby-style. And it's unfortunate for McAllister. I feel for him, but he can go into the portal and hopefully find a spot,
And it makes you wonder, how well was it going for him here too? Was it working for him regardless?
Well, what do you do though when they go to rugby and you're not a rugby punter?
On top of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we'll see where that all goes, but Nebraska is going to be bringing in an import.
Yeah.
And I'll hold all my import jokes.
That'll be a story. Like, remember Cherney was a pretty big story when he came here. Remember that?
During COVID.
Yeah. It was during the summer too. It was, I want to say June or May, right?
Of 2020.
Yeah. You remember?
And they had to bring him in the summer of 2020.
Yeah. Yeah.
From Australia.
Yeah.
Which it dang near took like an act of Congress to get Daniel Cherney from Australia, which was completely locked down with COVID. I talked to him back then.
All right. I remember.
And to get him to come in, it was crazy.
Yeah. And it was a big story where they're bringing him in. It just didn't work out with him.
He got hurt. Yeah. He got hurt in the first scrimmage.
He broke his leg.
Yeah.
Didn't he?
Never.
You break his leg?
Broke
a bone in his leg?
Yeah. Ankle, leg. I mean, on a rollout, he got hurt pretty bad. Yeah. So, all right, let's take it to headline 3. But before we do that, we're brought to you by our title sponsor, StayHome.Care. They're there for you, your loved ones in your life. Call them at 402-205-2233 to learn more about what StayHome.Care can do for you. But let's go headline 3. Matt Rule explained his in-state recruiting approach. And, the last couple of years, we've seen Nebraska take as many in-state players as they've ever taken in modern day history. And if you're being blunt and honest, it hasn't worked very well. A lot of guys have already left and moved on. It just hasn't worked. We're now this year, fast forward to what's going to be the class of 2026. There are 3 standing offers out in the state right now. One of those 3, Isaac Jensen, is not going to visit Nebraska on an official. So you're looking at Jace Reynolds, a linebacker from Elkhorn North, and then Darian Jones, the younger brother of Donovan Jones, as the 2 kind of active in-state offers, where meanwhile you're seeing some teams, particularly Iowa State, who could end up with 7, 8, 9 commits.
They've offered how many?
Close to 10.
And they've got 5. They have 5 Nebraska players, in-state Nebraska high school players in their class of 2026
already.
5. Ty Chapman, I think, is the latest one. He's a safety from Lincoln North Star. He committed, I want to say, last week. And he was the 5th. They have 5 in their class. So what's Iowa State doing, Sean? What are they doing?
I don't really understand, because, it tells me that they're obviously not going to do like the taking the portal and trying to build that way because it's very expensive to take free agents. It's almost like they're signing rookies at undrafted free agent type deals and NIL and going to build it that way.
Build it.
And that's how they've done it. But it, like Matt Rule was trying to be respectful, but he said, look, it's the Big 12 and the Big 10 are completely different leagues. And I know a lot of Big 12 fans don't want to hear that, but that's the reality.
And so he can't, and I don't expect Matt Rule to be overly, he shouldn't have to be overly concerned about a team like Iowa State coming in or whoever coming in and offering Nebraska kids when they're sophomores, right? That Nebraska, we would play this game in the media, right, Sean, where, oh, Nebraska wasn't the first to offer that kid. Why not? Why does that kid have an offer from school X but not Nebraska? I am very okay, now this can get kind of heated, but Rule's approach, as he outlined on Thursday, makes a lot of sense to me because of what he said. We have to topple Ohio State. If we now this is where you got to be delicate with the conversation. You have to be very choosy about who you pick, and you can't get into this pattern of trying to appease a lot of people in Nebraska, right?
A lot of people have tried, as he said, and they're not here anymore.
You know what I mean by appease? Well, we better take this kid.
This is so-and-so's kid, or
right. This powerful coach's player that we better appease. Okay, now that's harsh, but we're in a new world now. How many high school kids is Nebraska going to sign this year, do you think?
15?
15, which is down from how many in traditional years?
20 plus.
20 plus.
25.
You have to be more picky now.
And you're not taking walk-ons.
Mm-hmm. And what I loved about what he said is, because I say it on our show all the time, is you can't take your eye off the ball, which is these superpowers, these giants. Oh, don't you want Nebraska to be a giant? Isn't that what we're after here? You want Nebraska to be Ohio State.
And you're going to get somebody snarking right now, oh, you're far. Well, I mean, they did play with Ohio State within like a field goal this year. It's
not that far away.
I mean, I get it. They were 7-win team last year, but you can't ignore like, hey, Nebraska, they played Ohio State as close as anybody did almost all year.
Right. And Rule's not here to finish in the middle of the pack, right? He's not here to finish 8th in the Big 10.
Well, I mean, Indiana is an example of how quickly you can turn a program.
Yeah. Arizona State's an example.
And you can't act like Indiana is light years ahead of Nebraska overall.
No.
They just figured out how to do it, and they got hot.
Right. And again, I know
they had a good schedule to do it as
there's
well.
Always going to be people jabbing and saying, well, don't you remember 56-7? Yeah, I remember 56-7, but Indiana's not that far ahead of Nebraska. That happened, that a game can get.
Yeah, what would you describe the game in Columbus in the next week?
Right, exactly.
Nebraska was leading 17-14, and they were a defensive stop away in the fourth quarter from walking off Ohio State.
Right, and I don't want to create a situation that's not there. I don't know how Nebraska coaches, high school coaches reacted to what Rule said on Thursday. I thought it was fine. I thought what he laid out made a lot of sense. Rule was a walk on himself, and Rule understands how important high school football is in the state of Nebraska. But there's that other conversation. We know what he has to take down. He has to be choosy about who he takes.
The other thing I'd say about this year's crop of in-state players is, there's probably 15 kids in this state that are Division I level, but there are very few just no-brainers.
Okay.
Jet Tamala, I think you would call a no-brainer, but there's a quarterback already committed to Nebraska with the last name Raiola. So like that's just not going to happen. After that, they've seen Amarion Jackson. They didn't offer Landon Von Seegren, who's going to Illinois. He's a 6'3" guard. They just didn't have a need for that. They like Darian Jones. Isaac Jensen's a tight end. He can play here, but he's looking elsewhere right now. But Leighton Burback, kind of a project. Caprice Keith didn't come to camp last year, and he's going to Iowa State. Tyrell Chapman, North Star kid. They didn't have much of a read on him. His dad played at Arkansas, so he's almost kind of like a transplant in the city of Lincoln here. Barry Freeze, like him, he's going to Iowa State, but not a guy that you're just going to like in a 15-man class take. Keaton Kaiser from Sidney, Nebraska. Another guy, you're not taking him in a 15-man class.
The key, I hope people understand what we're saying. A 15-man class where there's 15 high school kids, right?
Correct.
And so 15, that's down 10, that's down 12, that's down sometimes more than that. So there's just not as much room now. That's what the college football world has done. It's not something that Matt Rule decided. He didn't decide that the classes are going to be that small. He's got to work with it.
Yeah, they're at 130 players when you count the players coming in still. There's 7 more that aren't here. But to put numbers in perspective, there are 38 redshirt freshmen and 38 sophomores on this football team.
Wow.
That's a lot.
Yeah, those are big numbers now.
I mean, that's 76 players that are redshirt freshmen and sophomores.
Young.
And what's 76 minus 105? There's not a lot of wiggle room.
No.
I mean,
right.
Just to start adding bodies.
No.
Because if you do, you're going to have to take bodies out.
Right. It just becomes it sort of becomes a mess.
All right.
It becomes a headache.
That's something we'll be talking about for a while. Let's move on to headline 4. But again, we're brought to you by StayHome.Care here on HuskerOnline Headlines. Call them 402-205-2233 to learn more about what they can do for you, your family, your loved ones. Simple things like cooking, cleaning, laundry, rides to doctor's appointments. It's never too early to call and learn about what they can do for you. 402-205-2233. That's StayHome.Care. All right, let's take it into headline number 4. How does a Dylan Raiola versus Nico matchup sound in the Rose Bowl?
Well, it sounds incredible. Now, there's one thing that has to happen, though. Nico has to go to UCLA, which isn't official yet, right?
I think it's done. I mean,
you think it's done?
Well, everybody's report. I think that's where it's all heading.
I hope for Nico's case it does. And well, come on, that adds a ton to that game. I mean, come on. Now it's not great news for Nebraska. This just depends on what you think of Nico. I happen to be in the camp that I like Nico as a quarterback. I hate what he did. What his camp did. I do. It's hard to I try to kind of play the I'll support him act, but hard to do. But he's good. He's trouble, Sean. He can run it. He's dual threat.
There's some real thought though that that could even be a Friday game.
Come on, how beautiful will that be?
Friday night.
We're gonna be in the Rose Bowl on Friday night.
Well, here's the thing though, like if it is Nico versus Raiola, all Polynesian matchup,
yeah.
Like that's an attractive matchup for a lot of people just to see these two quarterbacks.
100.
And the question is, can Fox get it on Friday? Will they be able to select it? They have to decide those things ahead of time as the season begins, or will like an NBC want it at night?
Wow.
We know one thing: if you play at UCLA, it's not going to be generally you can't play there at 11 a.m.
No.
So it does make sense to play that game at night. Friday night in the Rose Bowl.
Very appealing and
very
big game. I mean, they're all going to be big for Nebraska because there's some expectation.
And if Nebraska's season is anywhere even near where you'd hope it'd be, there'll be floods of Husker fans that go out there.
Yep.
Tons. Because that's an easy ticket. It's a great trip. It's November. It's in LA. But that's think about that stretch you have there. You play USC and Lincoln on a Saturday. And if they do move Nebraska, UCLA to a Friday, that's a short week to travel to UCLA. So I'm sure Matt Rule's like, shut up about the short week here. We played on a Saturday.
Well, not only that, but
you have a bye week. You have a bye week after that game.
After the USC game.
After UCLA.
Oh, after the UCLA game. But
then you go to Penn State.
Whew, that's a tough stretch of schedule there, Sean. And see, the other thing Matt Rule might be doing is saying, oh, yeah, great. We want to face Nico. I'm glad you guys are excited. He's probably okay with it. But I would say this. Nico's tough to deal with. I believe that. He wasn't great. He didn't put up great numbers, but it's a dual threat. He's 6'6" or 6'5". And I watched him run against Ohio State, and that got my attention. Now, listen, he got a lot of yards late in the game. It didn't matter, but he was running over people. And it looked pretty good to me.
And I don't know what their offensive coordinator situation is there after the failed Eric Bieniemy had one good game.
Oh, God. Yeah, it was in Lincoln.
It was in Lincoln.
Yeah. He might add more than that, by the way. Be careful.
But I mean, come on. Like,
Fact check.
Nebraska made Eric Bieniemy look like he was coaching Mahomes that day.
He schooled up Nebraska a little too much, huh?
I mean, those are the longest drives I can ever remember.
Yeah. He seems like he had an edge that day.
They couldn't get off the field, but yeah, what will that look like? But that matchup in LA in the Rose Bowl.
I love, you know what I like, Sean? We sit here and we talk about all these changes in college football. It's April 18th, whatever it is. It's so nice to shift your brain into a football environment, into a football discussion where Nebraska is playing that team with the powder blue jerseys in the Rose Bowl.
Ooh, and UCLA would have a bye before Nebraska.
Will they have their powder blue jerseys on, by the way?
Yeah, it's their home jersey, right?
Yeah. We'll be out there for that.
I haven't been out to the Rose Bowl since the 2012 game, obviously.
Yeah, when Nebraska got beat by UCLA, and UCLA put up a big number in the second half, right?
Yeah, they came back.
Nebraska's defense didn't have many answers.
Yeah, and they missed a field goal, and they also called like a 4th and short run, and they gave it to Mike Morrow, their fullback. And remember, he didn't get it. It didn't make any sense at all when you had Andy Janovich on your team and even Zimmer, and they were really trying to get Marrow's kid going.
Yeah, Marrow, that's right.
And he didn't get it.
Nope.
And if they get that first down, I think they win the game.
Yeah, the momentum really got going. If my memory serves, the momentum really got going against Nebraska in the second half. And I think Nebraska got flustered. I can remember talking to John Papuchis after the game. Just didn't really have it. John's a great coach, and he handled the interview well, but it's like they didn't really have any answers. They didn't have any answers.
And that was a game where it looked like Nebraska was going to run away with it.
Early.
Like you forget how Taylor Martinez, that's a guy you took for granted.
I have to think about
the plays he made.
Yeah. I'm saying what I'm disputing is I don't know that we took him for granted. Did you take him for granted?
Well, I think fans didn't show him the appreciation.
Yeah, I think fans didn't show the program at that time the appreciation.
And Taylor was so private and didn't have much of a personality.
Yeah, I didn't care about that. He was a great player. Listen, we always get into this conversation, but it's true. We got into it the other day. We got into this conversation the other day. We didn't respect those teams the way we should have. We didn't. Fans, media, just own it. We didn't. We thought it would always be like that.
Between the schemes, the development, the draft picks, the wins,
the players, the talent level. Yeah. It wasn't perfect. They weren't competing really for national championships, but they weren't that far off, right? I mean, when they went to Jerry's World and basically beat Texas, they were on the cusp of big things at that point.
Oh, and even like their walk-ons were like NFL guys. Yeah. Foltz, Riley, Janovich.
See, it was
long.
They were hitting at a pretty high level.
Yeah, I mean, they were hitting they were developing linemen, and they were identifying and developing running backs.
I just think sometimes it's good to talk about because we're in this different situation now, and we had it pretty good, It was there was some talent on those teams, and I don't know. It's like I don't know if we took it for granted or probably. I
just think it was Bo's demeanor, like he was so polarizing at times.
I don't think it was just that, though. I don't know that it mattered that much who the head coach was.
But Bo got after you, and there were media members that tried to get after him. There were moments that were ugly,
but there were a lot. But I think to balance that conversation out, we went down a rabbit hole here, but it's good. I like this stuff in April. There's a lot of fans that like Bo. You understand that, right? Well, you do, because you said polarizing. Polarizing suggests that there were a lot that liked him. There's a lot that didn't. Bo, the thing that Bo did was he sort of was alienating in terms of the administration, right? So, and I think he kind of liked operating that way in some ways.
A chip on his shoulder.
Yeah, you got it. I think that's what kind of drove him, but that can be also debilitating, and it can wear people out a little bit. Again, though, he said to me when he took the job, Sipple, I won't be here more than 5 years. And I said, why would you say such a thing? He says, because I wear people out. That's what he said.
I'll never forget his personality. Like on a bad day, I mean, you could say hi to him and he would just blow by you.
the thing about Bo, though, on a good day, he was incredibly disarming. Funny.
And he'd talk your ear off.
Talk your ear off, charming. He could. So yeah, I mean, that's the way he was. That's the way he was. He's funnier now. I mean, but yeah, and he could be really disarming. You know,
His Sipple Halloween mass joke. All right.
That wasn't funny.
I'll never forget that at your former employer, that reporter that tried to make a joke with him,
which I can't remember.
Tony, the videographer.
Oh, that was bad.
So this videographer, I mean, he's kind of a hippier guy with beard and wore trench coats. I mean,
extremely talented Tony.
Very good photographer.
Yeah.
But there was a short period where Bo was losing games in October.
Mm-hmm.
And so like the narrative here was Bo can't win October games.
Tony didn't ask questions either very often.
And so we're going in this press conference and they just get beat by Texas. I want to say it was the 2010 Texas game, like the one that was a huge Texas game.
Red letter game.
And he comes in and he goes, "Geez, Bo, you really don't like October, do you?" And I'm like, oh my God, what is this guy doing?
Tony didn't ask questions either.
And Bo just looks at this guy, sizes him up, and
that was it.
That was it.
But it was uncomfortable.
And poor Keith Mann has to just like stand back and he's just like, you know, I mean, he's not happy.
No, it was okay though. The press conference went on and it wasn't a total disaster, you know.
We don't get as much of that anymore.
Why is that?
I don't know.
I wonder why we don't. We don't. It's very controlled now.
We'd get some wild card TV guys back 20 years ago, like that would just come in shooting.
Why does that not happen as much anymore?
I don't know, but I mean, there was a time where you'd be like, let's let these TV guys kind of hang themselves and it was kind of fun to watch.
Yeah, and there's a few times where like the national guys would come in and there'd be like a, whoa, what was that? You know?
Yeah, those guys don't go to these things anymore.
Yeah. What if Nebraska got really big though? Would
they just do their own interviews?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
They don't even need to come in to set up interviews anymore. They can just do it like Zoom, like we're doing right now.
It was better times back then, Sean.
All right. Well, final headline before we get to headline 5 again. Thanks to our title sponsor, StayHome.Care. They're there for you, the loved ones in your life. It's never too early to call. Learn about what they can do for you. They can do cooking, cleaning, rides to doctor's appointments, grocery shopping, just daily household tasks, whatever it is you might be in need for not only a family member, a close friend, a loved one. Just call them at 402-205-2233. Thanks again to StayHome.Care, the title sponsor here of Husker Online Headlines. But odds and ends, Lee Corso, they announced this week, ESPN, after 38 years with the network, he will do the week 1 college football game on game day, and he'll be done at that point. But what a remarkable run of Lee Corso. You go back to when college game day began. It was the 93 season. Notre Dame hosted Florida State in kind of an epic 1-2 game in South Bend, one of the best. And I remember Nebraska played that day, and Nebraska played their games in that era at 1:00
pretty much every time.
And the game got over, and we rushed to some little small bar on like 10th and O, my dad and I, and we watched that game. I'll never forget that was the first college game day.
No kidding. God, you remember that.
And I was 13, and we went to we watched that game on TV, but they made the decision, let's take the show on the road. And at that time it was Craig James. It wasn't Herb Street yet. And then Craig James wanted more money or did something different, and that allowed Herb Street to come in. But you think about the impact that show, because of college game day, we're all better college football fans than we were 20 years ago.
And Corso added levity. He put
stage presence.
Yeah, and he put that head on. He'd put an oversized head on, or he'd dress up like James Madison. He'd do something, or dress up like the Stanford tree. And it was hilarious. Like it could be really funny. When a guy puts on an oversized head and then stands up and does a jig, it's just super funny. And he has, I don't want to talk about him in the past. He turns 90 on August 7th. He's still with us. He's super funny. He's a funny guy. He has a great sense of humor.
And, you know, Off the
God
set,
bless him.
he was pretty low key. I don't, he wouldn't be out and about in the town. He kind of kept a low profile when he'd come into Lincoln years ago. Even.
He did his thing on the stage. And you're okay. I got to tell you, I never watched College Game Day all that much, but I recognize its importance. I do. And I watch it a little bit more now with McAfee.
And now and I think
Saban.
They've been trying to build for Corso to move on or retire. And I think the combination of Saban and McAfee is how you replace that. That's the replacement right there.
And that's strong.
You add the presence and personality of McAfee, who has that. And then you add the coach and Saban. And
you still have Herb Street, who, by the way, I'll tell you what I appreciate about Herb Street so much is he took care of Lee. I mean, he really at the end, in the last couple of years, if you watch the show,
helped him.
Oh, he was like there for him. He was always right there for him. If Lee stumbled on something, Herb Street was ready to help him. And it tells me a lot about Herb Street is really gold. He's gold. As far as other odds and ends, I think we need to mention Jacob Bauer.
Yeah.
Jacob Bauer was somebody that Rule expanded on Thursday. Sean, I didn't really even know much at all about Jacob Bauer. And this is what Rule said. He's not just he's a linebacker from Santa Margarita Catholic in California. He's not just in the 105. He might be in the starting lineup / some of the packages we do. Did you have any idea that Jacob Bauer could be a starter?
Well, he didn't make the fall camp roster last year, to put that in perspective. But around the bowl game, I had heard his name, that he was a guy they liked, that was doing a good job.
Yeah. And
I do think when guys like Mekhi Bayer and some of these other things happened.
Didn't need Bayer, turns out.
Yeah. But when it allowed him to get more reps and do more things during the bowl month. And, he's taken advantage of it. And again, the walk-on program.
Yeah.
Does this story exist in 5 years now? This type of story.
Well, does it tell you that it can still a little bit?
It can. Oh, it absolutely can. It's a matter of you need the placeholders to be able to do it, though. Because you still need 85 scholarships is basically 95 now. Nebraska's going to carry more like 95 scholarship level players and probably have 10 guys that would kind of categorize as true walk-ons.
Okay. Where it used to be,
you'd have 85 scholarship players and you might have 60 guys.
Walk-ons, right?
And just the simple math and metrics alone tells you if you had 2 school buses full of 30 guys per bus, you're going to find football players in there.
Yep. Anyway, I thought we better mention Bauer because we haven't talked about him much at all. He's a sophomore, 6'1", 220 is what I wrote, 6'1", 220. Now, you know what, though? You won't see him on April 26th because he's not a third string guy. Maybe not even, he's probably kind of a second string guy, but a guy that has a chance to start. What I'm suggesting is you're going to see lower unit guys on April 26th.
And maybe we see Jacob Bauer. Who knows?
Oh, no. Rule said you won't see
Jacob. You won't see him.
Rule said
he doesn't want his film out there.
He said you won't see Jacob Bauer. What I took that as, wow, the kid must be good. I mean, they feel that way about him.
All right.
Really interesting press conference on Thursday.
Another walk-on of note, Alex Bullock left the team for the Pinstripe Bowl, went in the portal late, last week or this week. Signed with South Dakota State and Dan Jackson.
Yep.
That's a good place for him.
Oh, well, there'd be a lot of places.
North Dakota State and South Dakota State both wanted him.
Yeah, and what I'm suggesting is Bullock could play in a power conference team. I mean, so yeah, he's in a good place, but hell, Kansas would be a good place for him. He can play.
He was pretty low profile about, what his next move was going to be. But, I was thinking about this, man, Creighton Prep, you hear so much about other programs in the state, but Prep's put out the 2 Bullock brothers, Sam Sledge.
Yeah.
And then the next guy we're going to talk about here, Chamar Brown.
Yeah. Those are players.
All came from Creighton Prep.
Those are players. Now, Bullock, you don't want him to be your one receiver.
No, but he's a very good kind of 4-5 receiver.
Yeah. very reliable, tough kid. Those Bullock boys are tough kids, tough football players.
But yeah,
Guys you want on your team.
so Chamar Brown, we mentioned that as well.
Chamar Brown.
Marty Brown, as they call him, 5'11", 218.
What are we doing here, Sean?
I think it's a more of a decision if Matt Rule and, if they want to move forward. And
what are you hearing?
He's getting a lot of attention. I will tell you that. Like LSU, Miami, North Carolina. I mean, he's getting a lot of teams that have inquired about Chamar Brown. He's got an agent. He had almost 1,200 yards rushing, scored 15 touchdowns as a 218-pound running back.
Yeah, he won the Jerry Rice Award as the best freshman. I must say, best freshman offensive player in the in that category, FCS. Okay, so these teams are inquiring, or how much are they inquiring? Are they really interested?
Yeah. I mean, they've reached out to his agent. I mean, he has got numbers, man. He's built like a pro. He's a pro. He played in a pro style offense. He's built like a pro, and he put up numbers.
Excuse me for just getting to the bottom line here, but so what are we talking about Nebraska wise? If he's that guy, what's
it's a budget thing. I mean,
okay.
You have to decide like what you want to spend on a position, probably, and what you have committed to that room. And if you add him, do you lose somebody at that point? I mean, there's a lot of things that go into that discussion, but I have a hard time thinking he wouldn't play next year for Nebraska.
Wow. Okay. Now, so the question comes to mind when it becomes a financial discussion. This is going to sound rough, but if you don't feel like you have the money in your budget, then
you always have the money. It's a matter of,
are you asking a player in that room that, hey, we're bringing in a guy. You're not going to, we can't pay you now.
Oh yeah. Or you tell a guy you're not going to be in the picture.
Right. But my impression is that Matt Rule does not want to go that direction. Which I respect. I respect it to a point. We had this discussion. We don't have to have it again, but you're trying to get the very best players in your program. That's what you have.
And this is a local player that has gone on and developed at a very high level, at a pretty good level of football.
And this isn't us trying to push anybody out.
No.
All we're really saying is what Matt Rule has said at a podium, which is his job is to fortify the roster to the best of his ability. And that means bringing in the best talent available. And it doesn't mean we'd like to bring in this kid, but I can't ruffle feathers in that room. Can't operate like that.
Would he be, I'm asking you point blank, and don't dilly dally. Would he be the number 2 running back?
Yes. Yeah.
I mean,
that's my guess.
That's my answer too.
My best guess.
But
now,
it's a matter of what's the price as well.
I don't want to be disrespectful to Ives, but he 6 carries for 7 yards is what we've seen.
Versus legit production in a national championship.
Right. I'd like to see more practice of Ives, before I gave a final answer, but you asked me and I answered.
All right. Well, should be a good weekend.
Yeah. And so what do we got? We don't have.
By the way, baseball, this actually probably works out for the best. There's no baseball Sunday because of the rain now. They're going to play at Northwestern Nebraska.
There's going to be rain
on Easter Sunday. There's going to be a double header on Saturday.
Yeah, that's good for.
But I think that, I always kind of was surprised they play on Easter Sunday as it is. You'd think they would just.
I've covered softball and baseball on Easter Sunday, and I always would sit there going, "What am I doing?"
Yeah, I never understand. But I also, coaches don't want to play double headers, and you also don't want kids to have to miss more classes because baseball players miss a lot of class. So.
All right, so we'll reconvene on Monday.
Be back on Monday. Husker Online headlines. For everybody, have a great Easter weekend. For Steve Sipple, I'm Sean Callahan signing off here for Husker Online Headlines.